Dylan, when he started working with me, I already had like, 2 other video editors I was working with, juggling between them. I didn't have the guy. Right now, Dylan's the guy for me. And he sent me a video that was hilarious. All right, Dylan, welcome to the Voice of Production. It's nice to have you on, my man. For those of you who don't know, Dylan works for my company currently. He works for a bunch of other companies. He does a lot of, I'll let you talk about that. So, kind of talk about maybe your upbringing and how you got into video editing and, your expertise.
Yeah, it started in high school. Essentially, I was going to a school called EVIT.
Okay.
It's called East Valley Institute of Technology. And I was originally doing culinary and ended up obviously not liking it. It's a terrible industry to be in for certain individuals. But I quit doing that, and then I turned into the video production course that they offered there.
Yeah.
And did that senior year. Nice. And then after high school, went to Scottsdale Community.
Nice.
And
that's a good program.
Yeah. By Spielberg.
Yeah, right. Some say that's actually better than ASU, but
yeah, no, I've heard the same thing. It was a great program. They have a lot of block courses and so forth. You learn everything from A to Z over there.
Yeah, I went there for a half a semester, and they bring out the Bolex. They teach you from scratch the history of film. It's pretty cool. Yeah,
and you learn things that I feel like we don't use today, because they were teaching us on Avid Media Composer. They did certain slates where we had to block the camera.
Interesting.
With just a black card for some reason.
So did editing, when you learned it there, when did it spark for you that you wanted to be a video editor?
I think, doing the music videos and stuff like that.
Right, because you're in directing too, right?
Yeah, that's where I pretty much did everything.
Yeah.
Shot, directed, edited. That was pretty much the start of everything. Mm-hmm. It was mostly geared towards music videos.
Yeah.
Because that's where you can have the most creative freedom.
Right.
And, but what really sparked me to be more of an editor than everything else is, for being honest, one, it kind of pays more in a sense.
Yeah.
Living in Arizona, it's not always enticing to go outside and at 100-degree weather and shoot projects and then also edit them. But I'm more of a homebody type. So, that's what I'm being an editor is more enjoyable, even though it has its struggles. It can be very frustrating.
Right.
Especially revisions and X, Y, and Z, all of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
as with any profession.
Yeah. But I think the main reason why I became an editor is because of the demand for it. Because a lot of people like to shoot, they like to direct or compose projects, and not a lot of people actually enjoy editing, from what I know.
Yeah.
And so
it's absolutely right.
Yeah. And I figured that if I could really master my skill there, then I'm just that much more valuable in a demanding market.
You see so many people going into video editing and they're not very skilled. It's kind of hard, to be honest, to find a good video editor.
Yeah.
As someone who owns a video production company, it took me forever to find that guy. And for you guys, Dylan, for me, is that guy, right?
I'm that guy.
Yeah. He's a guy I trust with any project when it comes to animations, when it comes to After Effects. I can throw anything at this guy and he'll take care of it. And it's really valuable for me to tackle anything like that, because people will come to me and they will say, hey, I need this and this and this. I don't even have to ask Dylan if he can do it. I already know he can do it. I already know he can handle it. So it's super valuable to have someone like that who I know can tell the story, because there's so many bad editors out there. Because like you said, it's oversaturated. There's a huge demand for it. So people are just naturally getting into it, but they don't have the experience and the passion that someone like you has. Right.
Yeah. And I think, just kind of backtrack a little bit, even if I don't know how to do something, it's a matter of unfortunately I haven't done that before, but I can figure it out just because I've done this for so long. But yeah, at the end of the day, storytelling and just being efficient and really knowing the ins and outs, or even dissecting certain things
Yeah.
being able to troubleshoot or look at a video or reference and be like, oh, okay, I kind of have an idea how they do that, but
Yeah.
I'm going to go about it my own way.
Yeah, so most of the people who watch us are either business owners or in marketing. And what I want to talk about is the importance of telling the story.
Yeah.
Now, I'm kind of more in the director role, and I know you're in the director role too. Do you want to kind of, like, it's kind of weird because I grew up video editing too. I've been doing it since I was 8 years old. So I love video editing. It's just I am starting to outsource it because I need to focus on other stuff. But there is that kind of dynamic to storytelling where it's kind of beneficial to be the director, like have experience in the director's role and have experience in the editor's role to ultimately tell that story that you're trying to tell to market your business. Do you want to kind of touch on that? Because you have experience in both directing and editing, right?
Yeah. Well, I think it's definitely crucial because even if you don't have the expertise of being in the director's chair and you're just focused on editing and that's all you've ever done, if that is the case, having that relationship with that director is very important.
Yeah.
Because obviously they come up with the story, the script, the outline.
Right.
And your job as the editor is to fulfill their vision at the end of the day. So I think it's very important to have that skill set as an editor. Because at the end of the day, you're the one that's finishing the end product. You're the one that's like handing that to the client or satisfying the team.
Yeah.
And ultimately that is the end product that's going to be out there in the universe.
Yeah.
So it's very important just to everyone's on the same page and you're also, I guess, proactively thinking of other ways that you can help fine tune that story too.
Yeah. Well, it's like it's setting the editor up for success. Right. So me and you have edited projects that we get the footage and it's just all over the place.
Yeah.
Right. So kind of the director's role too, me video editing my entire life, I understand the importance of keeping everything organized. Right. Like our shoots, what we've been doing at Fame is doing the film slate, making sure everything's organized, doing the camera report, because I know the importance. When you get that, it saves so much time in the editing process, right? And it leaves you more time to tell the story, to market your business, right? So it's just important to set the editor up for success.
Oh, I agree. I mean, that cuts down time. It makes things flow a little bit more smoothly. And then on top of that, it just makes it very streamlined in the sense that it's going straight from vision to edit. And if everything's organized, that's a big portion of it because you're saving a lot of time. You're cutting down a lot of man hours.
Yeah.
And like you were saying, it's just focusing okay, what story do we have to tell? What do we have to highlight here? And you're not focused on troubleshooting all this crap, essentially. So.
What do you think is important for, if I'm a marketing executive and I'm looking to tell my story, what do you think, if I'm getting into video marketing, right? What do you think the most important things are storytelling wise? If I have a brand and I want to get my message across, what are the things that I should be focusing on when I get the end product after the edit is finished? How do I want that to look? For instance, I say personally that interest is the most important thing right now. Grabbing people's interest, getting the hook.
Yeah.
That all plays into editing, right? Telling the story, keeping the audience engaged because things are changing right now with social media.
Yeah.
Things are changing. The stories are being told differently. Do you maybe want to talk about the change and the shift in social media, how videos are being edited now versus, 10 years ago?
Yeah. I mean, things right now just feel very fast paced and short.
Right.
Because we're growing in a time to where our attention spans are getting smaller and smaller and smaller.
Absolutely.
I mean, as far as reaching your audience or grabbing that interest, if you will, obviously the edit has to be clear cut, straight to the point, and a call to action in a sense.
Yeah.
So that way someone could easily not only be engaged by it, but they know the reason why they're watching it and what to do afterwards. And if you can nail those three things down to a T, then I feel like that could increase leads.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think personal brands too are getting more important, wouldn't you say? I mean, you're developing your personal brand even, you're starting your YouTube channel, you're putting out more personal content. Do you want to maybe talk about the benefits of a personal brand? Because the thing is, nowadays, it's shifted a little bit, right? I feel like people are, yes, you still have to market your brand, your company's brand, but the personal brands are becoming more important. For instance, when you think of Tesla and SpaceX, you think of Elon Musk, right? That's just a given. When we think of Elon Musk, we think of the companies that he represents. When we think of Apple, who do we think of?
Think of Steve Jobs.
Steve Jobs, right? And he died in 2011.
Yeah.
He died.
He's still relevant to this day.
Yeah, more than a decade ago. And you still think that's the power of personal branding, right? So maybe let's talk about that. What benefits have you seen from you starting your personal brand and getting your face? I mean, you had a podcast appearance. You're on this one, right?
Yeah.
You're trying to build your personal brand. Maybe talk the importance about that.
Yeah, I mean, personal branding, in my experience, I would say that one, it not only showcases like who you are and what you do, and
right,
all the obvious reasons why personal brand is important, but I feel like it really does kind of fine tune who your audience is,
absolutely,
who your clientele is. Mm-hmm. And so that we can kind of weed the herd out a little bit. I think for me, also the other things I've experienced with a personal brand is people associate my name with like quality. They would notice me as like you were saying earlier, like, oh, Dylan Toon, that's the guy I need.
Right.
And that was just simply because I was showcasing my skill sets. I was showcasing who I was as an individual. Yeah,
you don't ever try to sell, right? No. You're more of like a person who showcases who they are. There's no CTAs on your videos.
No.
And I think that's important for, marketing executives and business owners to know is like CTA, no one wants to be sold to nowadays. They want to see your work and then they'll decide if they want to work with you or not, because no one wants to be sold to anymore. And that's where your specialty is I'm this expert in this industry. Here's this quality video. Here's something you've never seen before. Here's something that'll catch your eye and hit them with that over and over again. And the more you show up in their feed, the more likely they are to decide to work with you.
Exactly.
They will make that decision.
Yeah, because if you try and guide people into a direction of like, oh no, I am the guy you should be hitting up, it comes off disingenuous in a sense.
Absolutely.
Like, take a car salesman, for example. It's like, me personally, if a car salesman is looking at is showing me a car and is like pushing me into getting into the financial room and trying to fill out the papers. And
oh my God, it's the worst.
That's when I'm like, you know what? I don't want to work with this guy because he's not looking out for my best interests.
Right.
He's just wanting to make a quick buck.
Yeah, and people can smell right through that.
Oh, 100%.
Versus when you're putting out quality content out there and you are just wanting to serve. We were just talking about that earlier, right? Yeah. Serve, and then you won't have to sell. If you just serve your target audience and you put out video content that is educational and showcases your expertise, then they're going to trust you over time.
Yeah, because you have to provide value at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
And that isn't necessarily, and I feel like value it can be multifaceted, obviously. Because it's not just, I also feel like it's not just about your product, but it's like, how efficient are you?
Right.
Are you easy to work with? Are you easy to communicate with?
That's why educational content is extremely important nowadays, because the value aspect of it, right? If I put out a piece of educational content, I always put out stuff that I could have packaged and sold to someone. Mm-hmm. People try to like, oh, maybe I shouldn't tell them this much. No, do that. Because if you put out content that you wouldn't have already packaged and sold, if you don't do that, then how are they going to know that you can help them?
Yeah,
right?
That's been exactly. And I feel like, maybe even since the dawn of time, but education's everything. Education is, that's what helps innovates society in general, but not only society, but businesses and individuals.
Right. And one more thing. So our friend Sean is coming in here, digital marketing. I just want to say, well, you know what? We'll hold that thought because this is a good point.
Hey, what's up, Sean? Dylan.
Sean.
Pleasure.
Nice to meet you, my friend.
I guess you're going to be the news reporter.
Today, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls.
So this is actually a great talk.
Yeah, what
All right. So this is a great talking point. So, by the way, guys, this is your channel, right? I don't need to introduce you.
It's always good. I like to be redundant. Like if every big company can, they introduce everybody every time. So why not?
So we were just talking about value and showcasing your value to your audience so that they already know that you could help them, right? So you have to give the value first. There's no, we're talking about how selling isn't really an important thing nowadays. It's more of like you have to give value first and then they trust you. For example, what I was going to say on that before you walked in was Dylan, when he started working with me, I already had like, 2 other video editors I was working with, juggling between them. I didn't have the guy. Right now, Dylan's the guy for me. And he sent me a video that was hilarious. It was through email. I should put it up on the screen right now. I'll put it up on the screen right now for you guys to see.
This is a video of me making my very first short, and here's how I did it. I first started by setting up the key light and finding the right Kelvin to complement my beautiful skin tones.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Checking the microphone for the best quality of audio, did some pointless voice exercises, and then from there I began writing my script. And after many frustrating takes, I finally came to the conclusion that this is not about perfection. It's just about doing. I then imported the footage into Premiere and got straight into editing. I began chopping up the footage, adding some minimal color correction, throwing in some transitions and sound effects, tweaking the audio to my liking, generating subtitles.
Thanks to AI.
And lastly, adding B-roll for audience retention. After double checking my work to make sure it's not complete trash, we are finally ready to export.
He sent that to me out of the blue, and ever since then, I'm like, this is who I need to work with. Like, that's how I knew.
How long have you guys been working
It
together?
wasn't paid. Like, I didn't have to pay him for it. He just like sent me it. It was like, this is what I can do.
Yeah.
And it was a funny video, and he just crushed it. So that's the importance of giving value first before you sell.
Yeah.
Right. So ever since Dylan sent me that email with that video, I've been working with him, and he's my go-to video editor.
How long have you guys been working together?
I think maybe 6 months.
6 months? Oh, okay. Well, it feels like a...
So what made you send the video? Like, what was your thought process where you're like, okay.
Well, okay. So the story is that Tyler,
Yes.
he mentioned that Levi needed an editor. And I was looking for more business. I was looking for more people to work with. And Levi, he sent me some footage where he's like, oh, like, what can you make out of this? And he showed me reference, like, to make it engaging and stuff like that. And if I'm going to be honest with you, the video was boring. I was like, dude,
You had to spice it up.
let me just make it myself.
Right.
And so, because I was not only showcasing like my editing skills, but it was more so like, okay, obviously I know how to film, I know how to, light kind of. I mean, the lighting and all that, it was just whatever. But it was more so to showcase like, okay, this is like my style, and I feel like I wasn't able to highlight those skills in those type of videos. So I was figuring, you know what, why not? Let me just do it myself. You go above and beyond, and then really showcase that like a nice fine platter, and just I feel like that's just more appealable.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Sean, do you want to speak maybe on that, like giving value to your audience first before you try to like sell them? And
Yeah, especially nowadays, you got to have real value to bring to people, because you can't follow any templates anymore, because as soon as you follow a template, it's going to, sooner or later, it's going to create supply and demand where there's not going to be much demand because there's 100 people doing the same thing. So like right now, like I look like if you're doing like you doing editing, I always view editing as it's an art, and it's not necessarily, there's different qualities of it. It's like, okay, we have low, medium, high, however you want to look at it, or like 1 to 10. But I've seen styles that are great and they're all different. Like last night I went on a tangent right before I went to bed, because we had the speaking event that I went to. And then after, I saw like so much dynamic content, but they all said different things.
Right.
They were all different narratives that they were following.
all different stories.
Exactly. So the more tailored that we can be towards our messaging, the better value comes with that organically, as long as it's tailored in like authenticity.
Absolutely. Well, let's like for you, for example, you just came from a speaking event, right? And where was that again?
It was in Salt Lake.
Salt Lake. So that's
first
kind of
time.
right. First time.
Yeah.
So that's kind of an example of giving value first. Like that's why people do those speaking events. And when you see someone in person and they're talking to you and they're trying to help you, right? I mean, you gave a keynote.
Terrifying, but
Yeah, I bet.
But hey, that's, it takes courage to get where you want to get.
I'm ready
right?
for the next one.
So that I respect that, man. But yeah, that's important, right? Is like giving value when someone sees you in person and they see your face and you're speaking in front of them, they're going to trust you, dude. Like, and the writing notes, you're shown as an expert in your industry. And if you're given an hour keynote, like if they listen to you for an hour.
Yeah. I guess I can speak on that because that was super interesting because I didn't go first. I went 2:30 p.m. The event started at 9 a.m. So I got to hear 4 or 5 different people speak. And I already had my own notes, but I had my notes and then I was adding to the notes of what I heard from the other speakers to do a few things to be relatable in terms of referencing it to some of the conversation or some of my presentation. Because what I did is I shared advertisements that were successful. I showed stuff that happened back in 2020 when I was working with a staffing agency and flying all around and filming Facebook ads. And then I showed stuff that was currently working. And they really appreciated that. But I was able to share example of these big companies. Like this one guy, Danny Dixon. Have you guys familiar with Danny Dixon?
Yeah, I think he follows me. Yeah.
Yeah. He was there. He spoke at the event. He has he makes shirts, flannels, I think is exactly what it is. But
maybe it's not. Whatever. I think I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Maybe either or. But it's $100 million business. That's another thing that was exciting. I heard what everybody was saying, and then they were affirming some of the stuff that I've never even shared vocally on the stage like that. But for that event, my mentality, I wanted to give value. I wanted to give the most value because it was not only for my buddy's event, Alex Urban, great guy. He's generated millions of dollars with e-commerce products over the past years, but I wanted to put my best foot forward and just deliver results. I wanted to give value to the audience because I just felt right because everyone has imposter syndrome to some degree. So it's almost you want to reinforce that. Like me doing that, it was to deplete it because it's always there, but to compensate and the drive through it is to have some results to subside with it and talk about something that
Yeah,
and that's where
I think imposter syndrome is actually a good thing to touch on because Levi and I were talking about earlier, just like how saturated this spectrum is with social media. Everyone's trying to educate, everyone's trying to like share information and so forth, and so everyone obviously has someone to look up to. They emulate and they're like, oh well, I'm not sure if I can do that, but the thing is value at the end of the day. And you could tell it in a different way. You could tell in a different limelight, or it's just like everyone's unique in their own way and someone's going to find that valuable as long as you're, I guess, trying to execute that.
Right.
So
what are your favorite types of videos to edit and why?
Yeah.
Favorite video types to edit.
Corporate.
Genre.
You do a lot of music videos, right?
Short form, long form. There's people that are like, I only want to do reels, or I like to only do 10-minute clips.
Hey, dude, I like corporate.
I mean, corporate's cool in a sense to where I think it just depends on what it is. If it's like cut and dry, it's like, okay, this is a walk in the park for me.
But the thing I'll let you finish with. I just want to say first with corporate, it's the reason I've kind of niched my business around it is because I like to make boring things interesting.
Exactly.
That's like the challenge for me. That's what I love to do. There's so many boring businesses out there. And that's why video marketing is important because it gives you the opportunity to be interesting.
Yeah.
It gives you the opportunity to get interest.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you're just another company.
Yeah.
So what sets you apart? That's what I love to find in these boring, quote unquote, boring businesses. What sets you apart? What's your story? How can I find that and elevate that to the next level to where
I love boring businesses.
Yeah.
But that's my biggest interest in that it's like corporate is boring, but there's a lot of boring business, even if they aren't corporate. But the interesting thing about corporate is the approval process. So you do it.
Oh man, yeah.
And then you finish it and they're like, yeah, but
Absolutely.
They might result back to their old ways.
they're like, I want to just take this. I don't want to. It's like being able to effectively communicate, because I think that's what it comes down to at the end of the day. Can we effectively communicate it to the client where it makes sense in their head? Because it has to match their vision. It can't just be our words in terms of getting them to understand how this benefits them. It has they have to be able to literally see what you're saying. And for me, I always try to attach something that they might mention in a meeting or their overall goal to help them see it, because we might say the same thing that might mean the same thing, but they don't understand the terminology of it.
Well, I think more than anything, people are craving authenticity.
Yep.
At the end of the day,
Yeah.
they don't like the whole script and the whole like cut and dry. Just like, okay, let's just get this point across. It's like that shoot that we did at MJ Company. It was really interesting because I came into this thinking like, okay, we're just gonna do some basic testimonial stuff. We're just gonna do some training videos and just help build a structure in their business. But it turned into something much more than that, because Aaron, he, the owner of the company.
Yeah.
And
It's a janitorial commercial cleaning business.
yeah, great guy. And he surprised me that day because he had a lot to say.
Yep.
Because he was passionate
Is that a
about it.
video you posted?
Right.
Is it the snippet?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's You
You were like, you
He's-
won't even believe. Cut. That was nice.
he's actually editing that footage right now.
That was nice.
So
that was nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like what interests me about that guy is like he's cutting out the bullshit. Can I cut something?
yeah.
He's cutting out the bullshit of just like it's just because people just want to see like what people are really passionate about.
Yeah.
I feel like you can't really get a message across unless you're passionate.
But here's the thing. I think the conclusion to that, because that's what people want, but we have a lot of people that own businesses that are terrified of that, because they've been able to sweep a lot of practices, how they treat customers, under the rug. And this is where the opportunity comes to, like at that MJ company, at the janitorial company. He's a naturally transparent, authentic person. He's like,
Right.
sure. But there's a lot of people that want to stay.
They're not that way.
Stay behind the shadows for a reason.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, it's really failure to launch now. There's a lot of business. We were talking about personal brand before you came. There's a lot of business owners and marketing executives who don't want to start their personal brand because they're scared. And they think that they need to have everything in order to be able to start. And that's not the truth. It's just starting, because with practice, you will become that authentic person that you want to be. You just have to get on camera and just start and realize that. And also don't script out everything, right? That's not what we did at the MJ Company. That's not what people like. You think Alex Hormozy, you think Grant Cardone, you think Gary Vee, all the top influencers
have, like, a
script
teleprompter.
anything. No. But if you need to do that to start and just get in front of the camera, do that. But eventually just write down bullet points. And that's really the key to being authentic, is stop thinking about the words you're going to say. Start thinking about the emotions that you want to get across and that you want to convey.
Yeah.
Because if you just have a few bullet points and touch points on what you want to talk about, the words aren't in your head and you're not like thinking, oh, what do I say? Do I look good on camera? Right? You're thinking about the emotion you want to convey and who you're trying to help.
Yeah.
And that's the importance of, and that's the key to being authentic.
Yeah. And if you're like uncertain, because people think they have to have a pinnacle narrative, you just need to start with, like, you talk to the camera almost like you talk to yourself. Like sometimes you might just have like an ongoing thought in your head, and you want to just essentially like talk it out. It doesn't have to have like a main point. Just talk about where you're currently at, what you're currently doing, how you're currently doing it. It could be anything. It could be something. If it's directly a service that you offer, it's a service. If it's how the environment that your work is, or how you're personally doing, or forecasting of telling a story about someone. And the more you do it, it's going to turn into a muscle. And I talked about this earlier at the conference. The NFL is a prime example. They're always exercising the same story and telling it 100 times. That's what these big corporations are doing. And even now, like we're flowing, and this is our fourth or fifth one?
Yeah, but we're working our muscle. You're right.
Exactly. We're bench pressing as we speak.
The more you are on camera, the more, like when we went to, when we had that shoot with the commercial cleaning company, Aaron, at the beginning of the day, even the first day, at the beginning of the day, he was super nervous on camera. You know, the CEO of this company, he was super nervous. And I saw that, right? But towards the end of the day, that's when the
Loosey goosey.
Dude, he was so loose. He was like, he got super deep and he just got comfortable and more comfortable in just one day.
And then,
that just
when he
shows
was
you.
getting super deep, we just
literally
capture
kept
it.
the camera rolling.
Yeah, just
and that's the importance of working your muscle, realizing it's okay to be nervous at the start. If you want, throw those videos away. But if you just work and work over time, you're gonna be a natural and you're gonna become more authentic on camera.
And this is a perfect segue because, again, I guess to bring it all together, it's a muscle. So if he got good doing it that one time, imagine if he made it part of his business where he always brought a production team in quarterly. Like right now, I'm planning on doing something quarterly with chiropractor in Queen Creek with Chris and Erica. And we've already done one episode. We're going to do a second one on Tuesday. And they're already excited because we manufacture more ideas based off of the first episode, not including the stuff that we haven't talked about yet. But if that's a standard, you can only imagine what you're going to be able to say and capture and edit on camera. Same thing with you. I can only think about, like, I would ask you, what was the first thing you remember like editing? Like when did it like hit you where it was an interest? Was it something that you saw
I
to like the
asked
first
that question.
thing? Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Well,
Okay, never mind.
I don't know if I even answered it. Because,
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I walked in.
I mean, I guess what really got me to be like, you know what, this is my career path. Was one of my first music videos. It was just something that, you know, I was able to direct, shoot, put together. I had an idea, and it's like kind of what we're talking about. Like you have an idea of like what you want to convey, and you're just building that muscle and so forth. But I think it was like one of those first video projects that I did that really, there was a sense of relief. Like, wow, I made that. You know, I made that happen.
Yeah.
The satisfaction was
satisfaction, because you know, you feel
something came to life out of your mind.
Exactly. And I think, and then, but that's just, it's like sharing a piece with yourself to the world.
Yeah. Dude,
And
that's why I love video
It's so
editing.
satisfying.
That's why I love video editing too, man. Because there's no better feeling. Dylan knows this. There's no better feeling than delivering that final edit that you worked so hard on, and you planned out the project from beginning to end, and you executed it, and then you took it to the edit room and you edited it, and you spent all this time, and they get the product and they love it.
Oh yeah.
There's
That is
no
the
better
best
feeling in the world,
is
and you can't
client satisfaction.
You can't describe it, really. But there's something about constructing the story together in a way that the client has never seen before, and you're kind of like opening them up to like, hey, here's our vision and here's the end product. And then they see it and they feel so satisfied. That's the best feeling in the world.
Oh yeah. Sometimes you got to outsource that. You got to get different ideas from different people sometimes.
Absolutely.
100%.
You know, I mean, that's obvious, but to actually, like, you might think one way of like, okay, this is how I'm thinking, but there might be someone else that might think it in a different way that might essentially be better than your idea. And at the end of the day, it's like everyone's winning, because that is like the final thing that either the company is going to have or the individual will have. And it's like whatever gets the story across the best.
Right. Sean and I talk about this a lot where, you know, we just have to start on our phones.
Yeah.
And there is kind of a level where you need to outsource, and you get to that certain point where it's like, okay, maybe you're not getting the results you want to get. Maybe you've just started because you're working that muscle, but now you're at that next stage where you're like, I really want to ramp up my video content. I really want to get the results.
I want to evoke some more emotion.
Right.
Yeah.
With a more high quality production. Like you can do it in your phone, but if you want to like try some aesthetic, some luxury, production where we can get strategic with it, because that element is impactful and effective.
Yep.
Then, yeah, it's time to try. Whoa, it's time to try something better quality, and there's nothing wrong with that. But once the phone will get you ready.
Absolutely. But, yeah. So, Dylan, we were kind of talking about your future. What are some things in
my future.
It's like, what's going on there?
before-
You're a recruiter.
before Sean got in here? What are some things in your future? What are kind of with AI coming at everything, social media is changing, the types of videos that are being edited are changing. What do you see going into the future for you, and maybe just the realm of production?
It kind of reminds me of like, if we're going to talk about AI, for example, that one gentleman that we did that podcast for Derek.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was talking about, it's not like AI is going to replace us. It's the people that are using AI that will replace you.
Yep.
And so,
Happy birthday, Lucas, by the way. It was his birthday yesterday.
oh, happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Lucas.
But I think with the path of where we're going with like upgrading more and more technology, the AI coming into space and so forth, I think things are going to be a little bit more, like I would say, like automated, and it's just going to be more so about facilitating
Yeah.
in the production world.
Well, I talk about this a lot on this podcast, but I'll say it again. Dylan and I have been we've been experimenting with AI platforms and websites and tools that have worked tremendously and helped us accelerate the process. For example, we use Autopod, we use Submagic is a good one for captions, but really what that helps with is the menial tasks that take a lot of time, and that leaves us more time to be creative. And I think that for in the future, that's where the focus needs to be, is how can I differentiate my business from everyone else? And the key is just being creative and learning how to separate yourself. The people who are creative and the people who think differently than everyone else are going to rise to the top in large organizations, and I think any organization really, because all this stuff's going to be automated, and it'll leave us more time to be creative.
Yeah. And that's why it's important for us to exercise our brains, because when I hear, because of course when you first heard about it and you hear all the headlines, it's definitely it was irking and you were uncertain about things, but it's more of a necessity for us to keep sharpening our minds. And if we keep sharpening our minds, we'll always be seeing like the next move. Like that's why I like playing chess, because me playing chess subconsciously, if something goes wrong or something is ill-advised, I'm always thinking about the next move, not necessarily dwelling on the situation. And that in this case, if editing is going to become less time-consuming and chopping up everything with Autopod, now it's like, how can I redefine either a new skill or put energy elsewhere now that I have more time available? Because that's the thing that you can't get more of, and most people aren't going to be using these softwares, but it's our responsibility and our opportunity to become experts. If you can become experts on it and tell people how they can integrate it, then that's where you can stay ahead of the curve, as opposed to being scared of it. If you're scared of it, you're not necessarily, you should use that as a sign to taste and test these things for your business, if your production, and any spectrum.
Yeah,
The best way to adapt, people talk about adapting to AI, the best way to adapt is to work your creative muscle.
Yeah, and I think when AI started to become more really started to become more available to the user in these past couple of years, like everyone was scared of it. 'Cause no one knew anything about it.
No, nothing.
They were just like, "Wow, this software is amazing." I know graphic designers and VFX artists and stuff, they were all nervous.
Yeah.
But once we start to see it roll out, I mean, it's going to get more and more complicated, and there's going to be more and more softwares. But however, like I was saying before, if you're proactive in learning those softwares instead of reactive, then you're going to be the guy that is an expert, or the one that can facilitate those programs. And you're not only providing more value for yourself, but you're saving yourself a lot of time, a lot of energy. And then when you save time and energy, then that allows you to learn new things or even be more creative or whatever the case is, whatever you want to utilize more time to.
Yeah. I think this would be a practical time to add something. Like if, I use the camera as an example. So if you have a phone and it's a iPhone, whatever it might be, as long as it has a camera, this is example of using your camera in different angles. Like for me, I always do that. So I have like a clamp. I think you've seen me bring it sometimes where I'll like clamp my phone. It was like a $20 camera from Amazon.
Yeah.
And then I'm always using different angles. I'm always trying to like sometimes I'll put my phone up on this water bottle and I'll walk into the room versus just doing like a selfie or getting myself below where I see my neck to, from the
diversity.
top of my face to bottom. Like all that stuff is where that's part of building your muscle. Let's say if you have a camera and you want to like figure out different ways to storytell or different ways to evoke some type of emotion when it comes to the things that you might be trying to create on your own, because those are the things where you'll start to pick up the lighting. You'll start to pick up, I'm just trying to bring it back to like the base. Cause like for me, I always see it now. I'm always like looking at movies now, but that's because I look at the lighting because I've tried it so many times in terms of combinations with some videos and then talking to you guys. And now I'm like more aware of like, okay, the music is making me feel like this, or that camera angle is bringing this ambiance of something might happen. But
and the video is becoming essential now. Like you have to do it. You have to start. It's your portfolio now. Every business needs to be doing video, and that's why it's like,
especially the space that we live in now.
And don't use the excuse that it takes too much time. It takes no time at all. All you have to do is grab your phone and do this. That's
takes
it.
effort.
That's it. And like think about something that think about your target audience and think about something that brings value to them. And like in my industry, I could think of 100 million different content ideas, 100 million things that I could just put on my phone and tell my audience. It's that easy to just do it.
Yeah.
Right. And use like CapCut, right? CapCut does it for you. Like that's a good tool for people to use for like if you're editing your videos, right? It's as simple as that. Film it, put it in CapCut, captions, post it.
And here's something to even get more practical. Like you can make a video without putting your face on it. Like you work the muscle. And this is why I love doing this, and this is what's gonna help us become just even more effective storytellers. You just need a voice. Sometimes it could just be a voiceover, and you just be conscious of what you're saying. And then, like right now, there's things that we're thinking about, and we're trying to say intentionally so we can add it into this podcast, so we can help align the story with the marketing of what we're trying to tell you, or the voice that we want you to hear when it comes to the sense of just the basic production. But you won't know that. You know it now, but you will get more excited about it once you try to do it, where you talk about something for 60 seconds and then everything in that 60 second or 10 things in that 60 second span, you can have a layover in the video, and you don't even necessarily have to have your face in it.
Yeah. There's all different types of videos.
Yeah, it's endless.
Just, it's endless. Just start. But yeah, I want to tie this back to Dylan. Like for people who are just starting, why does editing matter, right? If I'm trying to ramp up my production and I want to start outsourcing and telling my story in a more effective way, and I want it to work. I want to get results. Why does editing matter? Hiring a professional editor.
Well, it matters a lot. But
they've had to give bullets.
I mean, there's a few things. I mean, editing matters one, like music selection. So music selection's one, because that conveys emotion. So having an editor that understands what you're trying to convey, and then be able to relate that to music for when the viewer's watching it, they feel a certain way,
Yeah.
Two, I would say that just ease of watch, something that's easy to regurgitate, and an editor helps out a lot by cutting out a lot of the fat, getting straight to the point, or making it more fluid, making it easier on the eyes to transition from one frame or one scene to the other. There's a lot of ways. I mean, even just I think a lot of people, when they have a bunch of footage or they have a lot of things they want to incorporate into the video, they might not even know where to start. When you work with an editor that's an expert in their field, their job is to take all of that and, obviously put together into one video. But some people just don't have that mindset. They don't know where to start. So an editor just helps you take your vision from paper or in your head, as long as it's written down, and then transcribing that into video. But I would just say that overall, it's just very important to utilize a decent editor that knows how to tell the story.
No, I would just to kind of piggyback or affirm what you're saying. So if you have a lot of film right now, this is a perfect opportunity to consult with an editor or production company, where if you have film and you had that production team or you had an advertiser look over that, we can help you tell a story that you might not be seeing. You might have a hidden story. You have a story in there that you could tell in 5 seconds, 15, 60 seconds, up until 10 minutes, however much you have. But having the eyes of someone that's making the chops or making the edits towards your videos or helping tell stories for a living, we can help you birth a story that you might be downplaying that you might not think is there.
To me, that's the difference really between doing stuff yourself and hiring a professional video production company. Is we, as a video production company, can help you find those stories in your business that you didn't know you had already. And when people come to us, they come to us with a vision. And the question I ask is like, okay, who's your target audience? And then I'll ask more questions deeper into that, and I'll try to really find who they're trying to target. And then what story can we tell to connect with them? You know?
Yep.
And people think maybe, oh, I need to give value to this audience and that audience. I'm like, yeah, but that's not your target. Like I stopped someone the other day in a video shoot. I stopped him while I was directing, and I said, look, this isn't your target right here. You're giving value to, like, you're telling a story for someone completely separate from who we need to be speaking to. And that's our job as a video production company, to tell you, hey, this is how you need to tell your story. You know? So that's really the difference right there.
No, you hit it on the head.
Yeah. Okay. So let's wrap this up here. So Dylan, any message to anyone out there who, is looking to get into video, and you know the importance of video in this upcoming year? Any final thoughts or bullet points? Or
if you're going to get into it, commit to it.
Okay.
I mean, it has to be a commitment rather than a thought. And you got to love it. You got to enjoy it at the end of the day, because if you don't enjoy it, then you're not going to progress any further. But however, if anyone's looking to get into video, or if there's a business out there that's looking to get videos done, find a team that knows your vision, knows who you are as a company, that cares about your end product, and they're just easy to work with. And I would say that could be some of us in this room. So at the end of the day, commit and have fun in it, and do your homework at the end of the day.
Absolutely. Sean, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I would say directly when it comes to video, because the objection when people watch these things, they have the voice in their head of the things that they can or can't do. One of the people that I shared the stage with was his name's Cody Alford, and he served in Iraq, and he showed a 17-second clip of him. It was essentially he had people that he was in war with. They were inside a building, and then that building was being advanced on, and then he was told that he needed to go on the roof. And what happened when you went on the roof, you were likely to face a lot of fire, where there were either bodies there or people were missing limbs. There's a lot of craziness, and he themed it saying, I had to jump on that rooftop because I didn't want to let my brothers down, as well as I had to do that in order for us to get us out of there, despite how scared he was, because a lot of people were seized up in that scenario. But I say that to talk about video. Like, just jump on video and increase the muscle of you doing it, and handle your rooftop. Jump on that rooftop of jumping on camera, despite it making you feel, terrified. Because I can tell you, I just spoke on stage. It was terrifying, but I addressed it, and I'm already excited to do the next one, because my muscle of public speaking and communicating with 50, 75 people at one time is going to get better. And that's the same thing for you when it comes to getting on camera. It doesn't have to be perfect, and your audience will appreciate it. So if you jump on camera and you share that process and you stumble, it's going to be so attractive to people that watch you do your first video to your 100th video, because they're going to see the evolution. And hence, this is why we like shows like how it's made.
So if there's one thing that you take away from this podcast, it's that do video or your business is going to fail and burn to the ground.
Basically.
No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, that's basically what we're saying.
Anyway, thank you guys for doing this podcast. Dylan, pleasure to have you on. We'll
Thanks
have
for
you on
having me.
again for sure in the future if you're willing to. But yeah, dude, thank you so much. You
He has to.
definitely gave a lot of insight and value here. So
Thank you.
Sensational.
till next time.
Boom.